Hello and welcome back. In the last few sessions, we looked at building up the component for the catalog, and essentially we built the first initial catalog version, which is what you see right now here on the screen. Okay, and the next thing we have to do is shift our focus to the API design, because some of the component that we can essentially render on the catalog is going to be coming from a database, which is a NoSQL database called MongoDB, and we'll be using the MongoDB cloud version. With that in place, we will go over to the API design part of it now. We'll start to focus on that, and so let's get started. Okay, so I'll go head over to my command line, and in here I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder that's going to be called API_IndieCafe. Okay, super. And I will just cd into API_IndieCafe. Alright, and in here I'll go ahead and say npm init. I'll initialize the project here, and I'll say -y to accept the default. Okay, so let's say enter. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and essentially open this in my editor, which is VS Code. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we get the VS Code editor opened up, and it asks us if this is a trusted source, and I say yes, I do trust the authors, and then click that. Super. And right inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a terminal by pressing Shift Control and tilde. Okay, super. And while I'm inside here, I'm also going to go ahead and install a few npm packages. All right, so it's important to note that we will be developing our APIs using Node.js as our runtime, and we'll also be using a lot of Node.js libraries and frameworks. Okay, one of them being Express, which is essentially going to be helping us do the API design. And let me go ahead and install that. Let's say npm I install Express, and we'll also need a few other APIs, a few other frameworks, like say .env for essentially managing our environment variables when we are executing locally. And what else do we need? We'll need cars for cross-origin request sharing capabilities. For example, our UI is running in a different domain, our APIs will be running in a different domain. So in order to establish that trust across multiple domains, we need cars package as well. Okay, and then what else do we need? I think we'll also need a couple of other packages in dev dependency, not necessarily not required for anything other than development activities, right? So I won't include them here. I will go ahead and install these three right now. Okay, let's pause here. This might take a while. All right, that finished. So we ended up essentially installing Express.env in cars. Let's also go ahead and install npm, and this is going to be in dev mode, right? And I'll say -d. And this is going to be, we would need Morgan, okay, for logging the API calls. And we'll also need nodemon, which is essentially allowing us to hot reload our changes as we make them. So essentially helps us quickly deploy and redeploy our changes, and then essentially helps the rapid development process. Okay, so what else do we need? I think we should be good here with this. Okay, let's go ahead and install these. Let me pause again here. Alright, so we're done here. Okay, so we install Express, we install other stuff like nodemon and Morgan. Let's go ahead over to our editor, That's going to be API_IndieCafe. So inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and I'm going to call it src. Packages that we install would be present here in package.json, some in dependencies, and other one in dev dependencies. Okay, super. And inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new file called index.js, which is going to be the entry point for our code. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say install an Express application here. I'll say requiring Express, const Express is equal to require Express. Okay, and I'll also say const Morgan is equal to require Morgan, and this is going to be for essentially logging the API requests into us that come our way, and say const course is equal to require course. Okay, super. Let me save this. And what else can we do here? Finally, we'll also need to define a port here. So we want to essentially start the app, and before that we have to actually initialize the app, right? So I'll say const app is equal to express, say app.use course. Okay, and I'll also say app.use Morgan, yeah, app.use Morgan, and that's going to be of type def. Yeah, super. And what else can we do here? I think to start with, I think we should be good here. Okay, and what we're gonna do is I'll also say express.json. Yeah, we want the .use express.json, so all our payloads that are coming in to us will be essentially destructured into JSON here. Okay, all right, super. And then what we're going to do is after this, we will try to start the app on a particular port. Okay, so let's define a port here. Const port is equal to, I'll call it 7787. I'll use 7787 as a port. Okay, and let me go ahead and start the app now. App.listen. Okay, and this is going to be on port, and it's going to take a function that doesn't take anything, and we can say here, do a console log here, essentially console log. Okay, and let's say actually we can use an interesting extension that I have here, so which essentially allows us to, I'll talk about the extension a bit later, but essentially I can go here and say do Control-Alt-L. Okay, and it actually prints out the line number and essentially the function name and the variable and the variable value itself. Okay, so that's really cool, right? Super. So I think we are good here, and let's see if we need to do anything else. Before we can go ahead and start this server on the Node.js side, we need to do a couple of changes here on the package.json and in terms of scripts. So we have some test scripts here. I'll get rid of that, and I'll introduce my own script here, and that would be to start, that allows to start the app. Okay, so let's say call it start, and I'll say node src index.js. Okay, all right. So with this, what we can do is I can just call npm start, and it'll start our Node.js server. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this here right now. I'll just enlarge the terminal here, and what I'm going to do here, I'll say npm start. Okay, hopefully this is going to start, my server. Yeah, it started, right? We're also getting this log saying that I know the server has started on 7787. Okay, super. What else can we do here? Actually, we can have a quick getter endpoint which essentially says hello. Okay, let's try that. Okay, I'll say app.get. Okay, and this is going to be on the root, not necessarily giving it anything, it's just the route, and this is going to accept a request and response. Okay, and it'll just say res.status. Okay, and that's gonna be 200, and it'll also send a message here of type JSON, and I'm gonna say message. Alright, hello world with an exclamation. Alright, super, I prefer that. So with this, we should be able to invoke this endpoint now, root endpoint. Okay, so how can we do that? We have an interesting extension here. Let me go over there, which allows us to invoke that from within the IDE. I don't have to go to some other tool like Postman when doing that. So that's the benefit of, essentially not have to switch between windows. So that extension is called REST client. Let me head over to the extension here, and it's called REST client. Okay, and this is the one, and I've already installed that here. Okay, and it seems to be quite popular, quite a few downloads there for that extension. Yeah, if you look here, it seems to be quite popular. Okay, alright, so let's go ahead and include a new file here, and I'm going to call it new file. I'll call it let's say request.rest. Okay, and inside here I'll just have a comment here. Let's say root endpoint, and I'll say get HTTP. Oops. Since I'm going to be invoking the hello world, I'll be saying get HTTP localhost. Okay, and I think the port that it's running on is 7787. Alright, and I can also specify some header if I want to. Say accept application JSON. Let's go ahead and send this out. Super, we don't get it. It's not found. Why so? In fact, it's running right here. Okay, I think what we did was we actually coded this up after the server was started, so the server didn't hot reload that, and we have a solution for that. So let's go ahead and incorporate that. So I'm going to stop the server here for a moment. Okay, and I will head over to package.json, and if you recall, we actually installed the node mod here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another script here. I'll just say dev, and with dev option I'm going to say I want to run node mod src/index.js. Okay, so this will allow us to run our server program using node mod, which means that it will be able to hot reload all our changes as we code. Alright, let's take it for a spin. So I'm going to say to run this, earlier to run this we just had to say npm start, but for this one we had to say npm run dev. Enter. Okay, so it's up and running. So now if I go ahead and say execute this request, we should be getting something back. Super, we got the hello world message back here, right? So our first API is up and running, the hello world API. And let's see, just to show you the utility of node mod, let me say I changed it here, and let's say I introduce additional exclamations. Okay, and it already started redeploying here and then restarted the server. And I can go here, say send request, and I get the new response back. Okay, so this is nice. Okay, so we have our setup for Node.js up and running here, the initial version. So let's take a pause here. In the next lecture, we'll look at another interesting and new concept, which is the MongoDB database, and how we can integrate that with our Node.js backend. Okay, so let's take a pause here, come back soon, and then focus on MongoDB signup and integration with our Node.js backend.